we can do better than that.
I think everyone's waking up.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome. We're so happy that you're here. You see this esteemed panel. But I am Guinevere Catchings-Hess, the president of Black Women's Agenda, and like all of you, I am a superwoman.
Yeah.
At least that's what I tell myself sometimes.
That's right.
Not that I always feel like it, because we tend to put on a cape and go out there and we're stronger than anybody else and we can do as much as anybody, better than anybody, anytime. But we get tired and we get weary. One of the pleasures about being president of Black Women's Agenda, I get to indulge myself in a story. And that is one day getting ready for this event. I'm trying to get ready and I go to the end of the day, my nails are not done and I don't know how I'm gonna get it done at a certain time. And I'm trying to take, she knows what I'm gonna say, trying to take a shower and get out. And I thought, the salon that I go, not many black people go there, so it's okay if I don't get really dressed up and put on that cape. So I said, because there's only one black person that I've seen in that salon, and I probably won't see her today. Walk in, who do I see but Kelly? And I started babbling on and on and on, and she said, sister, you need to close your eyes and breathe. And so it was that type of settling down because of all the things that are going on in our world, our sicknesses, our caregiving, our finances, and we get all spun up about everything that's going on. So I'm so grateful to AARP for sponsoring this wonderful town hall with these wonderful, phenomenal women and young men that we've had before. You will recognize Martin on some of our panels before, and we hope that this day will help you understand some of the illnesses that we have and the finance problems that we're enduring. And then later, we will have guests that will talk about how we can influence the change. Because our theme for this year is inclusion forms a more perfect union. I now will pass the mic to the wonderful, the phenomenal, the greatest, the woman who just gets it all done. She's a phenomenal woman, and she has a wonderful cape as well. Miss Symone Sanders-Townsend.
Thank you, Gwen. Okay, we are live. The mics are working. The mic is on, as Beyonce would say. My name is Symone Sanders-Townsend. It is my pleasure to be your moderator today. I'm host of Symone on MSNBC, Saturdays and Sundays, 4 p.m. Eastern. Catch me. I am working this weekend. Yeah. And today, we are going to have a conversation about all things health. Mental health, financial health, physical health, heart health, mental health.
Speak.
And we have an amazing panel of experts and practitioners and just my sister soldiers, as I like to say, on the front lines of all of this work, plus Martin. Okay, so I just want to introduce my panelists very quickly. Kelly Richardson Lawson is an Emmy Award-winning creative visionary and an entrepreneurial business leader. She established the Sunrise Project. It's a safe space for parents to connect, to share experiences, and to offer support. She is also one of the co-creators and the architects of the Crown Movement. Give a round of applause for Kelly Richardson. Give a wave, Kelly. Trisha Bailey, Dr. Trisha Bailey is a founder and CEO of Bailey's Medical Equipment and Supplies and Pharmacy. She's a philanthropist. She's also an author of her motivational memoir entitled Unbroken, The Triumphant Story of a Women's Journey. Good to see you, Trisha.
Pleasure.
Next, but certainly not to be forgotten, is Miss Ava Gaiman Dooms, MD, okay, doctor. She's a double board certified psychiatrist, renowned for her tailored psychiatric care for women, children, and adolescents, young folks, okay? We gotta talk about young folks' mental health today. She is celebrated in the wellness domain, and her expertise has graced all the platforms. I'm talking about NBC, MSNBC, Time, Essence, Women's Health, and also Town and Country. Give a round of applause for Dr. Gaiman Dooms. Martin Booker is holding it down for the gentleman on the panel this morning. He is a program manager at AARP, where he leads various financial education initiatives about investing, also Social Security, budgeting, all for the organization's 32 million membership base. Thank you, Martin, for being here as always. Deborah Tellman is here and live and in color, folks. She serves as the Executive Vice President of Corporate Affairs and the General Counsel with responsibility for Gilead's government affairs and policy, public affairs, legal, and compliance functions. Okay, we always got to have a lawyer in the building.
Yes.
And Pamela Garman Johnson, she serves as the National Vice President of Health Equity and Partnerships and the National Executive Director for the National Hypertension Control Initiatives for the American Heart Association. Say that 5 times. Okay, and in this role, Pamela is responsible for strategic planning, all for improving the health of communities across the United States. Okay, so with that, I actually want to, Martin, just first and foremost, when we talk about, every time this is my second time I've had the pleasure of moderating this town hall, and every single time we do it, we always have a financial health piece. And if you can just set the scene for us about why, when we talk about mental health, physical health, all the challenges that are facing Black women today, that the financial health piece is critical. Everybody talking about what's happening with Medicare and Social Security, and the government might shut down next week, y'all. We don't know what's going on. Only about 4 working days left. So just lay the groundwork for us and set the scene about this financial health piece and how it dovetails with some of the other things we're going to discuss today.
Sure. Symone, thanks for that question. And thank you for having me, everyone. This is truly inclusion. Thanks for having me on this panel. So when it comes to our mental health, our emotional health, and finances, they all correlate in so many ways, right? When we think about just, our anxieties, our optimism, depression, any of these things, right? They tend to drive the way that we manage our finances, right? Or our finances, or our lack of managing our finances can be a part of that as well. So we want to make sure that when we think about these things and how we manage our finances in any of these cases, that we're always looking at it from a mental health or an emotional health lens as well. So continue to keep that at the forefront of that conversation. We tend to not, right? We'll kind of manage our mental health or think about these things, and then we'll kind of manage our money separately. And these two things are combined in so many ways, and we have to continue to see them as one and as a part of a continuum as we have that discussion.
Dr. Gaiman Dooms, do you often see this correlation that Martin is talking about for the folks that come and see you? Okay, or that you got to come see?
Absolutely. Who can sleep well at night if you have financial issues? And part of that will bleed itself into just your daily life, how you're interacting with your friends and your family. And financial stress really, it could just lead to overall decline in your health status. Like any sort of stress can raise your blood pressure. So it is something that's very important to be addressed in our community at large. It's also very important to become very literate in finances so that you don't find yourself in those situations.
Pamela, you wrote an article in Essence last year, and you referenced the superwoman syndrome. I'm wondering if you can elaborate on the superwoman syndrome, and is there a financial health piece connection here?
Well, let me just say, we love wearing this W on our chest, and we love having a cape. It's like we want an award for it, which is great. We want to be the best in all that we do. But I do challenge us to say that we need to think about how we can have balance in our lives. Because if we're not whole, then we're not whole for our family, we're not whole for our friends, and so therefore we end up, because we're stressed, we start shopping online. We see that sale come across our email.
You on somebody's pew now, family? You on somebody's pew?
I know. Because we're like, oh, let me get this. I've been eyeing this St. John or Chanel, and we're like, let me get on that. Then we go back.
And they're not at the outlet.
No, they're not. So we feel like we just have a lot of anxiety as a result of that. And what I want to say is we got to have a balance. There's nothing wrong with enjoying the things that we love, but we have to find the time to take care of ourselves, and we have to prioritize it. So we have to have a plan. Just like we have a plan at work, we need a plan for our whole selves, which includes the financial and the health aspects of that.
Okay, Kelly, we gotta have a plan, financial health aspects, but what about the children are just boom, you just throw a little bomb in there. Because, and I mean, there are women here in the room and on the Zoom, maybe they have young children, maybe we are dealing with the intersections of some folks that are living in the sandwich generation, right, who are caring for children, but also caring for their parents. Maybe they're older parents, maybe we have some seasoned folks who are caring for some young folks, because that's what we do as community. How, when you add that into the mix, how does that stir up the pot a little bit?
Ooh, well, good to be here. And I pause because stirring up the pot is so true. And the reality is I have burned that cape a couple years ago. I don't believe I have a superwoman cape anymore. I cannot be a superwoman. And what I know for sure is that we are hurting. Black women are hurting, black men are hurting, our children are hurting. 90% of people in this country believe that there is a mental health crisis. 48% of black people state that they are dealing with a mental health challenge. That's up from 11% pre-pandemic. We all know why and some of those issues. But the first thing that we have to do as black women is acknowledge that there is pain behind that pretty face and those beautiful clothes. There is pain and there is suffering and there is stigma that we have to open up and talk about. And so our kids need us as their parents, and our elders need us as sometimes their caregivers to acknowledge that maybe they're not okay, and to accept that the journey that they're on is their journey and not our journey. And so many of us as parents put our children on these trajectories. They're gonna go to this great school, and they're gonna go do this, and they're gonna go to college, and they're gonna get a great job, and they're gonna join this organization and that organization, when most of the time our kids just wanna be kids. They just want mommy, they just want a loving home, and they want to be able to cuddle up on the couch. And when we don't do that, and when we're ripping and running and leading companies and starting this and starting that and doing that, when we don't take time to breathe, to pray, to be present for our children and for ourselves, we have a country in crisis. And we have suicide rates spiking. We have many of us dealing with depression or anxiety, panic attacks, or other. And so I am pausing to take a deep breath and to say it's okay to take the cape off, because we carried that cape for so long, as black women especially. And it's okay to take it off and focus on ourselves.
Deborah, have you burned the cape? Because, I mean, you deal with some, I mean, everyone on this stage is dealing with some just heavy issues in their daily work life. I'm wondering if you've burned the cape yet. And are you encouraging people in your professional life, as y'all are doing the work that you're doing at Gilead, to burn the cape?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Yeah, and I think it's true that as black women, we carry the world on our shoulders. We take care of our family, we take care of the community, we take care of political leaders, because nothing would get done without us. Amen. You know? So, I mean, it's the truth. And we know we have to focus on ourselves. And for me and for Gilead, our focus is to make the world a healthier place. And I think the way we start is we focus on black women, Because we know when we're healthy, everybody else is healthy in our family. And we believe that in order to do that, we have to show up. We have to show up in clinical trials. We have to show up and make sure that triple negative breast cancer is managed, and because we are 3 times more likely to die from triple negative breast cancer. HIV is present in our community, and unfortunately, Black women are leading that diagnosis. 54% of all new HIV diagnosis is with Black women, even though we're 14% of the US female population. So for me and what we do at Gilead, we really focus on those communities where the need is the greatest. And we try to push forward and make sure we're there.
Dr. Bailey, in addition to being an entrepreneur and a philanthropist, you authored a motivational memoir. And I'm wondering what is the top nugget from that memoir here for the women in this room and the folks on the Zoom?
Thank you so much for having me. All these beautiful ladies, I am honored to be in your presence today. From my autobiography, Unbroken, what you'll find is ways to overcome trials. I've never had a cape. They forgot to tell me I shouldn't air my dirty laundry. They forgot to advise me that that's not okay in our world. So because of that, I have taken the opportunity to share. In order to heal, you must share. I always say I can be sitting next to my sister who is going through the same challenge that I'm going through, but because I have not shared my story, she has not shared hers, I cannot support you the way that you deserve and the way that you need. So the reason why I wrote my autobiography is to help others. It is to truly help others. It's to inspire you, to let you know that it is okay that you have a meltdown. It is okay that your life might run around in corporate America or in business world and it gets so hard and you're like, I'm alone. But you're not alone, because every single person in this world goes through things. And there are times when you feel like going to the dark side, but you can truly overcome.
I love it.
Yes, 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 yes. Okay, I want to talk a little bit about mental health, and I'm going to throw this out to the group first. We are on the heels, coming out of, and frankly, I would argue, still in the midst of a global pandemic, right? And part of the effects of that pandemic was loneliness. People were isolated. Folks did not see their families. People were at home with their children. People who are not teachers were forced into teaching, and teaching is an art, okay, like dance or music or anything else. Everybody can't teach. I'm just saying. Shout out to all the teachers and the educators in the room. Okay, I see y'all. Everybody is not able. The psychological effects of the pandemic, I think, we still truly do not know the extent. We talk a lot about the effects on our children, but what about the effects on the adults and, the younger folks? I'm thinking of young people who went to, who spent their senior years of high school and college on Zooms that are seniors. Are we really doing what we need to do in dealing with our mental health? If we could just start with, are we having a real conversation just yet? And what are the numbers? Because I really think people have to understand the dire straits that we actually are in here.
This is my question.
Everybody looking like, who want to do
Yeah.
it? First, I'm going to go to our psychiatrist on the
Yes.
panel, okay?
Yeah, I'm happy to take this one. The effects of the pandemic are so vast, we will really not know for a very long time how at each developmental stage a child was going to be impacted. I will say that, a lot of the teenagers that already had friends, and teenagers are known to push boundaries and break rules, well, they hung out. And I think they probably got in a lot of trouble for it, but they were better off for it socially in their developmental stages. The younger kids, the middle school children, they've suffered in just so many intangible ways. And I see it in my office. I see on consults from schools, there are children who really, they have a fear of going to school. They don't have some of the social skills necessary to make new friends, keep friends, and they are waiting for the other shoe to drop. I mean, just imagine your whole life, you've never imagined something like this could happen. And then, just like you said, it's your senior year and there's no prom, no graduation, and you have to live in this environment of fear. So they're just waiting for somebody else to tell them. And I mean, I have 2 children and I can see where it affected them. And very recently, my youngest came to me and said, "Mom, did you hear about there's another flu going around?" I said, "I will open up a school in my house or on my front lawn before you ever don't have a place to go and invite all your friends to go to school. This won't happen again because it was so detrimental to the children and to the adults. And at every single stage of your development, you were impacted, whether you were young and trying to date and you couldn't do that, or you were, in a situation where you needed to make life changes and you couldn't do that as an adult. Every single thing is so very much impacted. I see so many more medication evaluations coming to me. I see so many more school counselors reaching out with children who are having very serious mental health crises. So we have to pay attention and we really have to give grace. And I want to just say, we've talked about a CAPE. I think that we have to think of spaces that are comfortable, spaces like this, as CAPE repair shops.
And CAPE repair shop.
And I really have to give credit to being in a room with a lot of friends, and one of my very dear friends said that about a week ago. And she said, "I'm here to tell you, my CAPE is tattered and torn. We are in week 2 of school. And so this is our CAPE repair shop."
Yeah,
I love the CAPE repair shop.
So I think we all need to have a spirit of giving grace and knowing that we can count on somebody to help us.
Pamela, I saw you shaking your head while Dr. Gaming Dooms was speaking.
Yes, and I do agree that we will not know the full effects of the pandemic for 5 or 10 years. But I do know, based upon the research the American Heart Association has done, that the disparities among African Americans have increased. And that's what's not good. And it's across all disease states. And so then you think about the trauma that we were already dealing with before the pandemic, it just escalated. And I think that we don't talk about that we are suffering trauma. So if you actually take one of those assessments and you start to check off and you're like, wow, we've all experienced trauma. We just don't talk about it. And so one of the things that I truly believe in is being vulnerable and being transparent. I am that way with my team that I lead, with my family. And what it does, it gives space and room for others to be able to share. And honestly, we need to share because we're bottling it up. Therefore, we're not sleeping. How many of you sleep 7 to 8 hours a night? Okay, you see that? That's the problem. We're not getting any sleep.
Hold on. Let me see the hands. How many of y'all are sleeping 7 to 8? Okay, I see my link sisters, they getting their rest. Okay.
right.
But see, that's all.
6 to 7.
But we need
I'm at
really
4.
well, see, we got to work on that because it's impacting our health. And it's not just our health, it's our overall well-being. So I do challenge you all. I'm not saying you're going to go from 4 to 7 overnight, but work to go from 4 to 5. Work to go from 5 to 6. It's the small steps that become a habit for you. And so it's not like you're going to go out tomorrow and run a marathon when you start working out. That's where we fail. But it's the small steps, and over time it becomes a habit. So my challenge to you today is about sleep. That's a place to start, and then we can continue to work on having a way to improve our overall mental health.
Yeah. I just want to build on that. I think that's great. I just want to build, I think the Kaiser Family Foundation did this study just in March that says 90% of Americans are stating that they are experiencing a mental health challenge. And the Ad Council, we do a bunch of work with them in mental health, and their mental health work is really tremendous. They did a segmentation study that shows 5 different groups within the black space, and you have the crisis crew, suicidal, at about 12% of the population, down and dugout, 25% or so, and it goes on up in terms of positive mood and behavior. That down and dugout space and the crisis crew has grown so significantly because people feel hopeless and people feel helpless, and the homelessness in this country has skyrocketed. There's so many issues. So I wanted to say, without going on and on, I think learning to listen better and to hear the signs when people might be struggling. Because if someone says, how are you doing today? And you're like, I'm all right. But you normally say, I'm great, and you have a sparkle in your eye. That's my experience of you, and I don't even know you. But I experience a sparkle and a light. If there's a nuance one day, having the opportunity to say, are you really okay? Can we talk about it?
It makes a difference.
Yes.
I mean, I like to say, I don't know if I told this story y'all before, but I like to say that it was black women checking on me and asking me how I'm doing to save my life. My father died unexpectedly about 5 years ago. He had a stroke, and 2 weeks he was at the gym, had a stroke. Okay, he worked. So we talk about heart health and whatnot. My father did 2-a-days, worked out every day, did walks in the morning, went to the gym in the evening. One evening he is at the gym, and he goes to the front desk and tells the woman at the YMCA, something isn't right, I need you to call 911. He collapses. He had a stroke. He's at the hospital. 2 weeks later, my father is dead. Healthy, 2-a-days, right? My father was a 64-year-old black man from Mount Bayou, Mississippi. And right after his memorial service, I went back here to Washington, D.C., and I went right back to work. I was back at work because, you know, we feel like we can't take a break.
That's right.
Because we don't want to miss
right.
something. You know,
That's
we don't
right.
want anybody to think we can't handle our business
That's
in the
right.
office.
That's
We don't want to
right.
miss a meeting.
That's right.
We don't want to fall behind.
That's right.
And I was at the airport, late for a flight per usual. If y'all see me, you know I'm running to the airport. Usually running with my bag like, how y'all doing? Okay. And I missed my flight, and I'm sitting there, and a good girlfriend of mine calls, who I don't talk to her regularly. She calls, she said, girl, I heard your daddy died. Are you okay? And I just start bawling and crying in the airport, and she's like, you need to talk to someone.
Yeah.
You need to speak to someone. And then it was women in my Links chapter who pulled me aside yet again 2 weeks later saying, you need to speak to someone, a grief counselor, a therapist. And those checking on folks will make a difference, because you encounter people every day and you don't know what they're dealing with.
That's right.
You have no idea.
Or on their Facebook. It's
On
my
their
best
Facebook.
forward. It's all happy la la. It's not really. It's not really what all that is. You know.
It makes a difference. Deborah, how has this impacted your work, is what we're talking about? Like, have you seen this in the folks that y'all are working with?
Yeah, no, it's I'm just listening to everyone, and what's really resonating with me is the idea of storytelling. That is so critical for our community, to show others what's going on with you. It's informative. It gives people a space where they can lean in. I was at one conference around oncology, and one of the speakers mentioned that every Christmas or Thanksgiving, she has a health conversation with her family. They do not eat anything until they have that conversation. And I'm like, that's a great idea, to force us to have that conversation, to make sure you're hearing what's going on. It's great to hear stories, how everyone's having a good time, but you also want to make yourself available to give someone space to tell you when they need help. And I think that's what we do best as a community, provide that space that we can reach out and help others. And I think for us, we focus a lot on stigma. That's a big issue for us in terms of how we're dealing with HIV in our community, giving people space to make sure they can be who they want to be.
What are the biggest challenges around the stigma?
Yeah.
Let's
Right,
unpack.
Right. And I would just say for black women, we think we can't get HIV. It's somebody else's disease. I would say if you're sexually active, you could be at risk for HIV. But we don't have those conversations about our sexual health, because it's always a clutch my pearls conversation for us. And we have to be more open. Whether you're 75 or 14, we have to have those conversations. So we partner with Black-led women organizations so they can be the trusted voice in the community and go out and allow people to have those conversations. We donate a lot of money to Black-led Black female organization, because we know that will listen to us when we come into the room.
You know, Martin, as we are having this conversation, Kelly mentioned homelessness. And I was speaking to the Secretary of Housing and Urban Development recently, Marsha Fudge. We love Marsha Fudge. Mm-hmm. And she gave me a statistic that I did not know, and it shocked me. And I don't know if people in this room know. But Black women are the fastest growing group of women who are homeless. Oh, wow. It's Black women. And so when I think about that, and I think about the connections to our finances, I'm just, there has to be something going on here.
Yeah, so the first thing I'll mention is what you were just mentioning about COVID. So two things that we saw financially. So AARP puts out a financial trends survey every year. And one of the things that we saw was that credit card debt. So during the pandemic, credit card debt rose, but for most people, it's 37%. Credit card debt increase for most people, right? So we're seeing things like that, right? Because what are we doing? We're home, we're purchasing things, we're
getting at St. John's.
St. John's.
That's
where we shop.
Y'all need to stay off the Chanel website now.
But so we're spending more money, right? We were home. We were able to browse the internet, buy more things. So we saw the increase in credit card debt. The other thing we saw, a lot more people are worried about inflation, right? So the inflation rates, that was one that came through in our study as a big indicator of just anxiety, right? And what does this lead to? So we see the credit card debt increase. Now we have to recover from that. We have to figure out, how do I pay this down? How do I manage this overwhelming debt? And that's when that's when the mental health and the emotional part starts to come in, because it's not that we need to study credit card interest rates. We have to look at desperation. We have to start to look at optimism, things like that, and as the reasons that we then go and try to manage these things and handle these things. And what ends up happening, what happens in these cases is we become more susceptible to things like scams. So, and if you look at AARP's Fraud Watch Network, you'll see a lot about the scams that become available, because it's people that's trying to get out of a situation that they may have, gotten into. So you have to find those ways out. And scams, frauds, that happens a lot. But then also, we try to find ways to invest. And I'll say the one great thing that came out of the pandemic is the amount of people that wanted to learn more about finances. We wanted to start investing. We wanted to find strategies to grow our money, which is such an important thing for us to do. So, the pandemic, it's still not done. Like you said, we have government shutdowns. We're still not sure what the financial climate may be in a year or two. But that financial balance that we talked about is a very important thing that we have to find. We have to find those ways to not just continue to we have to pay our debt down, but we also have to find those ways to grow our money, to save our money, and to continue to make money successfully. And now, to you asked about homelessness. Mm-hmm. You mind? What was it that you mentioned that?
Secretary Fudge told me that Black women are the fastest growing group of unhoused people in this country. And yes, and it struck me with those numbers because it's like, how as we talked about the pandemic put a spotlight on the disparities. I used to work for Vice President Harris, and she often says that the pandemic shone a spotlight on the fractures and fissures that already existed in our society. So when you talk about financial wellness and financial health, and I look at these numbers for unhoused women, particularly Black women, there is something going on.
Well, one of the things we also saw during the pandemic was an increased rate of marriages, but also divorce, right? We, so the amount of people in general that went through divorces during the pandemic was significant. That took a serious financial toll on the Black family, and we can't ignore that. And one thing I'll mention, because this is something that I've seen a lot, especially during my financial planning time, women in general, and looking at the household finances when you're in a marriage, it's very critical. There are too many people who ignore the finances and just, I'll let my husband handle that. I'll let my partner handle that. They like money, I'll let them deal with it. And I've seen way too often.
You're getting murmurs in the crowd, Martin.
I don't know who does that.
We might need to expand on this, okay? Because I'm gonna tell you, me and my husband, we got married about a year ago, a year and some change. We love Mr. Townsend. But he is the money manager, because y'all, I be on the website. He asked me the other day, I saw you swipe that card. I said, yes, sir. But what you were talking about, my mother and good girlfriends of mine have said, well, honey, do you know what's in the bank account? I do know. I asked for an update. I'm on the I want to see the sheet. I want to know what we got, where it's coming from, where it's going. Is my name on the thing? Do I have the numbers?
Yes.
Yes.
Is my name on it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And just as much as
Unpack it, Martin.
just as much as he's saying, I see that you swiped this card, can you say the exact same thing? Do you know where the
That's
money is
right.
going
That's right.
in your household? Do you know how much is being split between his, this savings account, this checking account, and do you know how many checking accounts are available within your household? These are all important things to know. That I've heard one too many stories of secret houses being purchased, of investments that are being managed without any awareness from the wife. And so you just want to make sure that you are involved. If it's overwhelming, find a way to make it easy.
Martin, what's the question? Give the ladies in the room in the Zoom two questions that they should ask. How do you broach the conversation? Because there are two things that can tear up relationships, whether they are personal or professional, and I'm talking about friendships, marriages, business relationships, and money is at the top of that list.
That's right.
Financial conversations are at the top of that list. How do they broach the conversation?
How do you broach the conversation? All right, so I'm gonna give you the uncomfortable part first. Take a look at both of your pay stubs. Start there. You'll be able to see where money's being split, right? Because I can send half of my check here, I can send 25% here, I can send 25% here. You will see that breakdown. It'll show you the accounts of where the money's going. If all you see is the direct deposit and you're not sure if that's the full check or not the full check, there may be a blind spot for you, and you want to make sure that you know that. So start there. Just look at both pay stubs, just to see if all the money's going into one account. Another thing that I'd say to look at, if you have a financial planner or a financial advisor that's managing your family finances, make sure that you're sitting down, have a conversation with that advisor alone, and with your partner, so that y'all are both aware of everything that's available. But then also just check all your bank statements. Just do a look through and just see how money's being spent, where money's going, and how money's being managed. That could be a good place to start, just to make sure that you're aware of where things are going. And then one more quick thing you could do: have a family. You could do like even if it's once a month. If it's too overwhelming, I like weekly, personally, but I'm a finance guy. But if you need to, start with monthly, start with bi-weekly, just to have a quick conversation about the finances in your house. It's going to be uncomfortable. It's hard. I'm going to talk a little bit about your relationship with money, and that's where it becomes sticky for us. But start there, just having a conversation with your partner, your potential partner, about finances and what's happening.
We're going to do a separate finance session. Come on, what you say, Miss Pamela?
I said you can get that credit report too. It tells you a lot.
Where's Gwen? Gwen, we need an AARP finance panel. Okay, I'll come back. I'm gonna have my notebook. What questions I need to ask? We could do this all morning, but we have to wrap. So I'm gonna ask each of my panelists to just give some short final closing comments. And Tricia, I'm gonna start with you. Just if you could leave the folks in this room with a gem or a nugget or a charge.
So one of the things that I did for my mental health, and I'm in the happiest place I've ever been in my life. And I have been through, when you guys get the opportunity to read Unbroken, I've been through a lot of trauma from childhood, trauma in my adulthood. And what I did in order to release this trauma, in order to replace it with the love that I needed for myself and for my children, family, and friends, I did what's called EMDR therapy. Now, I am not an expert at EMDR therapy. However, I went through 10 years of talk therapy. I developed great boundaries, setting my boundaries, or doing various things, but it didn't change. It did not change the way that my decision making was happening. And my decisions were being made from my trauma. So I kept running into the same abusive situation. Once I did EMDR therapy, it released these traumas, so I was able to now be happier. I was able to be more at peace. I was calmer. And so I say to everyone, try it. I did 8 sessions, and 8 sessions brought my life its own 180 in regards to my decision making in my personal space.
What is EMD?
EMDR.
Well, Dr. Gaiman Dooms, you can explain what it is and give your final comment.
So it is an eye movement therapy, and you go through sessions where you're actually working with somebody who is specializing in that, and you, whatever it is that you're bringing to, whatever it is that you're bringing to those sessions or your reason for going to see them, you go through that using that format of therapy. I would say it's more than a technique, but.
So it's basically a non-talk therapy.
Yeah.
You process the traumas starting from the most discomforted trauma. You'll be at a 10, your discomfort level, and once you get to 0, then it's there you have released it. And then what happened, the way it was explained to me, is that traumas are like ice cubes. And regular memories just fade. That's why you don't always remember them, but you'll remember traumatic things. And what EMDR does is allow those traumas to melt, and so that they're no longer making decisions for yourself and for whatever decisions you're having to make in your life. So I would say EMDR, I would recommend that for every person who's going through some challenges, and every person in this room, I'm sure, have gone through some trauma. Everyone has. We could just go through in various levels. And in the financial space, I say financial literacy, and that begins at home. If you are teaching your children or your grandchildren financial literacy, starting with the discipline of savings, you will get to the point where you already have the discipline of saving, and then learning how to invest that money, you'll start seeing financial freedom, and there will probably be less homelessness from women or Black women in our country whom a lot of times you're struggling to figure out, how am I going to save if I'm paycheck to paycheck? But if you've always been the person who, if you have $10, you save 50 cents. If you have been doing that all your life, it becomes natural. And it becomes natural, and at that point, you're happier. You're happier in your space because you're mentally free, that even if something happens, I have something set aside that I can overcome whatever these challenges are.
This is why we're going to do a financial session with Martin. Please give Dr. Trisha Bailey a round of applause. All right, Dr. Gaiman Dooms, please, your final comments, and we'll go quickly with the rest of the panel.
I want everyone to feel very encouraged and very empowered to seek therapy when you need it, and also come and see someone like me, a psychiatrist who handles medications for various mental illnesses. Please remove the stigma, remove the shame. I think that prayer and community goes hand in hand, but don't let anyone tell you that you shouldn't see a psychiatrist. So I enjoy being in front of people to say, find someone you can trust and tell them what is going on with you, and keep all the noise from anybody else out of your head.
Thank you. Give Dr. Gaiman Dooms a round of applause. Deborah,
Yes.
what you got for the people?
I think for me, in terms of keeping myself sane and happy and finding joy, I say no. I say no to my kids. I say no to my husband. Sometimes I say no to my mother. Because you can only take on so much work for others, and you need to spend the same amount of time for yourself and finding joy. So that's what I think about a lot. And, I worry about my health. I go for my checkups. I have my annual mammograms. I see my internist. I go to the dentist twice a year. I have my eyes checked. I think making sure you know who you are from a health perspective is also important for us. Because, again, if our health breaks down, the entire family breaks down. So I would say focus on your health. Health is wealth.
Deborah Tellman. Round of applause. Martin, what you got? You just gonna tell us we're gonna come see you in your session that we're gonna do next year?
Last thing, your relationship with money, it runs deep. It's ingrained in us from childhood. So, and it's really important that you manage that relationship well. If you have a negative relationship with money, if it's something that you're fearful of, that you're afraid of, that you don't know what to do, talk to a professional. Work with a professional. There are financial therapists. We're seeing that as a growing industry, but then also financial advisors, someone who can help you to manage your money and take the emotions out of it, because they're not connected to your money the way that you are. Look at AARP's interview and advisor tool. It's a way to help you to find an advisor and find the right advisor. As I mentioned, scams. Too often we end up talking to a professional who may not be the right professional for us. So using a tool like that, you can it'll help you protect and educate. It will help protect you and educate you around how to find the right type of financial professional.
Y'all give Martin a round of applause. He's holding it down for the brothers today. Kelly, what do you have for us?
I have one word, which is love. And when I think about love, we created this for the American Foundation of Suicide Prevention, but the acronym stands for L, listen. Learn to listen. Silent and listen have the same letters. So if we just become silent with our children, if I had listened to my little baby boy who's now 21, he may not have tried to end his life twice had I listened to him. The O is be open to new possibilities. As I was listening to you and I was sharing silently, I was like, my husband doesn't know how much money I make, and vice versa, and that's good for us. But be open to new possibilities. Be open.
My husband on the Zoom. Baby, I did not tell her you don't know how much money I make. We know.
We all, yeah, y'all know. And my husband, we keep it separate because my mom, old school, was like, make sure you got your own. And so that's what I did. And so, anyway, be open to new possibilities, because I might be open and I don't know. Anyway, the V is vulnerability, because, and so many people talked about stigma. We don't share. I'm an open book. I talk about suicide attempts with my son. I talk about getting past that. And every day is a new journey, and I'm so grateful he's alive. I'm grateful my other young man is alive every single day. And then lastly, have empathy. You don't know what you might be dealing with. So when people are like, I called you 5 times, I'm like, yeah, I tried to call you back, but I was in the hospital, and I'm dealing with my child right now, and that's more important. So have empathy, because you never know. As Symone said earlier, her father passed suddenly. Same with me, 12 years ago, heart attack on vacation. And I'm flying, people are like, you good? I'm like, no, I'm not good. And so have empathy, because the person you are looking at may have something that they are dealing with that is bigger than the text and the email and the PowerPoint presentation, because none of that really matters at all. And so that's all I'm going to say. Love, and I love you, and I just have to acknowledge the beautiful, all these beautiful, amazing women. Madam President, love you, and all these other fabulous presidents and amazing women in this room and up here. Thank you for having me today, and I appreciate you.
Thank you. I love you. Kelly Richardson Lawson. Now, Miss Pamela gonna take us home.
Yes.
I'm going to try
Because we done burned the cake.
Yes.
Yes, we can.
So mine is find your balance. Your balance in life is going to be different for someone than anyone else's, and it's going to look different. So when you do find your balance, it empowers you to be able to say no, because then you are focusing on the things that are going to bring you the greatest joy, that are going to allow you to have peace, and to allow you to be your best self. And that is what is so critically important. I think that's what this panel is trying to convey this morning, is that when we are our best selves, then everyone, everything, our communities, our families, they flourish.
Pamela Garment Johnson, everyone. Please give our entire panel a round of applause. Thank you all very much. Our second conversation is coming up in literally about 2 minutes. We're gonna bring 2 very amazing powerhouses to the stage. So don't y'all go anywhere. Talk to your neighbor, and we'll be right back. Thank you.
order 2 espressos at a jazz club, where someone we know is gigging in New York. There's more to do tomorrow, to get lost inside the Strand. Devote some time to Guggenheim. See Shakespeare in the park. It's summer